Hi, guys. Phil here, head of research at Moralis, and you have just tuned in for another Roadmap Roundtable. This time, we're featuring Lumio, the team behind Pontum Wallet, and we're going to learn about the advancements they have planned for this year while meeting a member of the team and getting excited about some of the DeFi that'll soon be available via the Lumio team. Now, it's not just the Lumio team, it's an entire ecosystem. And we're going to talk a bit about that as well. Now, before we get into that, I want to invite Coke onto the stage. Coke is my better half in the Moralis Money community, as well as Moralis in general. Coke, how are you doing today?
Great, perfect. Thank you for having me, Phil, as always. And yeah, let's dive into Lumio. I'm excited because I don't have much knowledge about the Lumio, so it's going to be like a first introduction for me as well. And I'm ready to get to know the team and what's going on.
Absolutely. I'm excited as well. I'm going to share some roadmap details on the screen here in just a second. But before we get into all of that, let's meet a member of the Lumio team. This is Alejo. Welcome to the stage, Alejo. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, I'm going to go ahead and, are you ready for me to share the Lumio on Ethereum slide, or did you want to do any kind of an introduction first?
Yeah, definitely. You can go ahead and put it up and I'll share what we're building.
All right, perfect. Let's get that on the screen here. And guys, we're going to go over some DAPS, which are actually already live here. Now, if you're watching this a week from now, then you might be watching the public release. The Moralis Money Pro community gets to see these videos an entire week early. And in addition to that, they're also performing steps using guides that are specific to the protocols that we look at. So if you're interested in that, click the link below, check out Moralis Money Pro, and you can see the power that's available there. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the roadmap for Lumio. So this is Lumio on Ethereum. I understand there's different aspects to the network. Maybe you can break that down for us a little bit, Alejo.
Definitely. So the vision for Lumio is to enable developers to deploy with any virtual machine, Solana VM, Move VM, Parallels EVM on the major L2s and L1s where developers want to be. So right now we have proof of concept on the Optimism superchain. This is the Move virtual machine working on Ethereum Sepolia using the OP stack. And we've been working closely with the Optimism team to eventually merge this into the superchain. What this enables is essentially the ability to share security, liquidity, and most importantly, composability with other OP stack chains like Base, Mantle, World Chain, which is part of the WorldCoin ecosystem. This is in contrast to isolated L2s like, for example, Arbitrum or others that are coming out that are new. This enables developers to deploy where there's already an ecosystem that's thriving. We are also going to be supporting other L1s in the future. Can share more about that in future episodes. But yeah, right now we're focusing on Ethereum, and we've been able to launch onto Optimism. And as you can see here, this is what our mainnet phase release is going to look like over the next few months.
Amazing. So one of the things we like to do during these streams is really like break it down to the most, simple explanation just for the people who are joining, because we get all new folks in here. We get people who are absolute DeFi veterans, really the whole scope. So let me break that down into 3 questions for you, Alejo. The first would be, of the things that are live on Lumio right now, and then the second question is going to follow from this pretty closely. But of the things that are live right now, can you, one of 2 things, either tell us which one you're most excited about, or break down the functionality of one that you think is just really, really useful addition to what we already have in DeFi today based on what's currently live?
Yeah, so what you're enabling on Lumio is the ability to deploy with Move virtual machine applications. So those that are not familiar with Move, it was invented at Facebook, now Meta. It was part of the Libra project, which later evolved into Diem, which then later evolved into Aptos and Sui. The Move virtual machine is essentially designed off of Rust. Rust developers really like it because it's a low-level language that enables for safer and more performant applications. However, Rust is very difficult to use. Some people might have heard the analogy of chewing glass when working with the Solana VM on Rust. So what Move does is essentially put guide rails for smart contract development. so that it looks more like a TypeScript or more intuitive language. Solidity is very popular because of this. When you're building Solidity applications, the business logic that you're building for most developers is relatively intuitive as you're building these out. So yeah, Move enables this. Move has also what is called optimistic concurrency. So I'll take a step back. There's two types of concurrency for enabling transactions to run in parallel in a virtual machine. One is pessimistic concurrency, which the Solana VM has. And that essentially means that you have to, ahead of time, say which parts of memory you want to lock. This could cause potentially some performance issues. Whereas optimistic concurrency, you don't have to pre-specify which parts of memory you want to access, which ends up having a better user experience for the most part. Something that's really cool about these ultra high performance applications, especially as you start to build out, is that you can enable things like high frequency trading on DeFi. You can enable things like social gaming, which previously are going to be more difficult to accomplish with a traditional EVM. So yeah, as we start to move towards these next iterations of virtual machines, call it the next generation of virtual machines, not just Move, but also the Solana VM and Paralyzed EVM, we're going to be seeing a lot more performant applications that start to feel more like traditional Web 2 apps. So I think that's the biggest gain of this, that the applications that we use today will feel more like, the Robinhoods or the Instagrams that we use. So yeah, really excited for that to come to life and us playing a role in bringing this to Ethereum and other ecosystems.
That's really exciting to hear, because a lot of times when you're just a computer user, even if you're an avid computer user, you might not realize how many different components go into the tech that you use every day. Even if we're just talking about the quote basic internet, there's a series of protocols that are involved with that, and really several different languages, both a combination of HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and others, to produce the web experience that we're so accustomed to nowadays. And a lot of ways, to me, this seems like a similar route of development, where we're bringing in all of these different solutions we have for building dApps under one umbrella, where it's no longer, all right, if you want to build with Solidity, you got to be over here. If you want to build with Rust, you got to be over here. Instead, we're going to be able to kind of put those all under one roof. Is that correct? Or am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Right now, developers are vendor locked into the EVM on Ethereum, and developers on Solana are vendor locked into the Solana VM, Aptos to Move. And that really shouldn't be the case, right? Like when you go and you use AWS or you use Google Cloud, you can build with any language that you want. Unfortunately, in blockchain, we're still so nascent in the technology that developers are vendor locked into these technologies. And think about it from this perspective too. If you're a developer, whether you prefer Rust or you prefer EVM or Solidity, you want to be able to scale your application across all these environments without incurring a lot of technical debt. Because let's say right now, if you are deployed on Solana and you want to deploy on Ethereum, you now have to rebuild and migrate your entire application over to EVM and Solidity. And then any upgrades or future versions that you have, you're going to have to then maintain 2 code bases, do 2 sets of audits, et cetera, et cetera. So that incurs a lot of technical debt that, once a solution like Lumio is out, is not really necessary. So yeah, these are key building blocks in the blockchain technology that we're excited to bring to market.
All right. And before we get into our second question here, Coke, I just wanted to quickly tap you on the shoulder, see if there's anything else you wanted to add to our discussion of, kind of bringing these different development languages under one roof, potentially using Lumio to do that. Did you have any additional thoughts or questions?
I mean, I see this really interesting, since many times user bases actually shift from chain to chain, chasing all kinds of things around. But now when like Lumio can intertwine all the chains together, or like step by step, chain by chain, it seems like a really nice solution for users especially.
Now, one of the things we get most excited about in the DeFi community, which we definitely are a part of as Moralis Money Pro users, we get excited about trying out new ecosystems, we sometimes call them. But in reality, they're new blockchains or new layer 2 blockchains that allow us to directly interact with them through various DAPS that have been deployed there. And it looks like, if I'm interpreting this correctly, that your mainnet phase includes launching some of your own chains, specifically interested in that super Lumio chain. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Maybe from the perspective of somebody who is somewhat familiar with Optimism, but maybe doesn't fully know about the connection that's available there.
Yeah, definitely. So the idea with Optimism and these roll-up frameworks is that eventually they're going to share an aggregation layer where you're going to have composability, shared security, shared liquidity across them. Very likely for these, it's going to be a shared sequencer. So right now, each individual L2 has their own centralized sequencer. A lot of them have been building with the OP stack. So people are probably familiar with Base, with OP mainnet. Now recently, WorldCoin announced that they're doing World Chain on the OP stack. And eventually, the idea is that all of these chains are going to connect together. So from an end user perspective, it doesn't feel like being in all these separate environments. Right now, going between Base and OP mainnet feels like going between two very different L1s, for example, even though they're both getting security inherently from Ethereum. And in the near future, all these are going to be connected so that the end user experience feels like just being on one homogeneous chain. So what we're enabling is essentially connecting into this ecosystem, into this framework, so that alternative VMs like Move, Solana VM, Paralyze EVM can function within the super chain ecosystem. So that's why we decided to name this version of Lumio Super Lumio. And similarly, Arbitrum, ZK Zinc are doing similar frameworks, but these are still going to be separate from each other. So the super chain, that's all the Optimism chains, is still going to be separate from Orbits and all the Arbitrum chains, etc. So we're going to need to lift and shift our tech stack and also deploy onto these other ones. But yeah, I mean, essentially the ability to deploy onto Optimism or the Optimism ecosystem with a Move virtual machine application or Solana VM application is going to be possible very soon. And then, yeah, in the future, Arbitrum, ZK Zinc, and others that we're researching. But yeah, the cool part about this is that from an end user perspective, it should feel like being in one environment. Whereas right now, that's not the case. And, we're hopefully very soon to seeing this happen.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that. And, one of the things that we're really big on over at Moralis is this multi-chain future that we're looking towards, that the future for crypto is not just one chain, but actually a multitude of different chains performing different services and, frankly, replacing traditional finance one piece at a time as we move forward through the next years and potentially decades. Now, I was curious, and I know that maybe this is a little bit tougher of a question, but I'm very interested to hear your input on it. How does Lumio facilitate the multi-chain future that we're working towards together? And in what ways will you guys improve that vision of not just the single siloed chain that we've had for so long, but actually a interoperable multitude of chains? In what ways would you guys help facilitate that?
Yeah, so very specifically, we're enabling developers to deploy across all these different chains with a single code base. So for example, if you're on Solana right now, you'd have to migrate your entire code base to Solidity or EVM just to deploy on Ethereum. So imagine being able to just copy paste your Solana VM code and deploy it onto Optimism. So that's essentially what we're enabling. There's other solutions out there like validity proofs that I think are going to be coming into market and be in production to enable a more seamless experience of bridging, for example. Other solutions like chain abstraction, I think, will potentially also help solve some of these issues of fragmentation and user experience. Our sole focus is just on the virtual machine component, so developers can just deploy their code across various environments with just one code base and not be vendor locked into one particular virtual machine or code base. But yeah, I'm excited for a lot of these other solutions that are coming out that should potentially improve the user experience across this multitude of chains. I think what people eventually want is just the ability to access the native liquidity of each of these. So you want to be able to access ETH within Ethereum, access Sol within Solana, but people don't really, like, the end user probably doesn't really care what the virtual machine is that they're using or which chain they're on. They just want to be able to, use their ETH or use their Bitcoin or use their Sol in a way that's safe without using, wrapped assets or bridges, which, oftentimes have been, the products of hacks. So, yeah, I think we're going toward this future. There's still definitely a lot of work to be done in the trenches of crypto as the infrastructure is being built out. But yeah, excited for that future as it's coming to life now.
Amazing. Now, I wanted to hone in a little bit on the R&D of X Lumio, Super Lumio, and the merge that's mentioned there. Can you explain a little bit more about exactly what that merge would look like from, the top down level once it takes place?
Yeah. So right now the super chain is only homogeneous. So every application or every environment is just a fork of the OP mainnet OP stack. We've done some modifications to enable the Move virtual machine to work. We're also working to enable the Solana VM. And we want to make sure that as we merge this into this homogeneous environment, that everything works, that essentially you'll be able to have transactions that cut across these different environments. So this is essentially going to be the first heterogeneous blockchain or heterogeneous block space that merges into the super chain. So it is a huge milestone for the Optimism community and for Ethereum in general. And this is something that you want to do carefully and you want to do over time. So this is why we're taking this phased approach to releasing it. And yeah, we'll continue working with the people at Optimism to enable this and hopefully make this a reality within the near-term future.
So we got a good question in the chat here. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the screen. It says, how confident are you with building and launching an Optimism chain? I just swapped my bag of OP coins because I didn't see adoption and active users and OP. He's talking specifically about the activity on Optimism. And I think I'm going to take this down so that we're not cutting off your face as well. Maybe I'll start with answering this. And then Alejo, if you want to add more in or correct me at any point, feel free. But it seems to me that Optimism post Superchain release becomes, and I'm almost scared to use this term, but it may be the best one. It becomes a sort of layer zero for the chains that it's hosting. Then the other super chains. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's good to think about the Optimism ecosystem as more than just OP mainnet. So I think a lot of people consider Optimism as just OP mainnet, but I would say that a lot of the development right now is happening within the Optimism ecosystem. I think Base is a really good example of where a lot of the attention in crypto has shifted to. Applications, especially in the social fi, for example, Friendtech and Warpcast or Farcaster are there. And this is really the frontier of where a lot of these applications are going. The close connection to Coinbase, I think, is also that should not be taken for granted. They have it's one of the biggest exchanges and have millions of users. And yeah, I mean, you should think of the Optimism ecosystem not just as OP mainnet, but as the collection of all these OP stack chains. WorldCoin, which arguably is one of the most ambitious projects in the ecosystem, is also going to be launching on the OP stack. And yeah, even though today they're not connected, they're all individual separated chains. The roadmap for the Optimism and also Arbitrum, let's not forget they're all competitive with each other. Arbitrum, ZK, Zinc. Is to have all these chains to eventually connect and feel like one chain. So yeah, as you're saying, this becomes a framework for all of these different homogeneous and then heterogeneous chains to eventually connect. A good example, I know it's not super popular, but is maybe Polkadot or Cosmos. But yeah, Ethereum L2 is definitely developing in a similar vein as this. So yeah, I mean, as you look at Optimism, definitely look at some of the other ecosystem players like Base, and then very recently, WorldCoin announced that they're launching their own ecosystem there too.
And thank you for that question in the chat. Keep those questions coming if you guys have any other ones. Now, I also wanted to kind of point out that this is one of the first times, that I've seen Arbitrum and Optimism, both optimistic roll-up solutions, mentioned in the same breath as ZK Sync, a ZK roll-up solution. And so I think it's comforting to see that you guys are really looking to unify all of those different solutions under one roof. Now, I wanted to quickly show here on my screen some of the DAPS that are live now over on Aptos, and we won't be doing any transactions today. If you guys want to see that stuff, you're going to have to join the Moralis Money Pro community to get access to that. But we can take a quick look at the DAPS here today. While I do that, I'm going to pull my screen down here and hand it over to Coke for any other questions that he may have while I get this this set up here. Coke, any thoughts on this? Is this also the first time that you're seeing ZK Sync and Optimistic, or I should say ZK rollup and Optimistic rollup solutions mentioned by the same protocol?
Yeah, in the same environment, cohesive environment. But the thing that I have in mind is like what kind of additional risk it brings for the user. There has to be like some underlying risk introduced because everything is all tethered together. And what should users keep in mind in that case?
Yeah, so to be clear, we're not creating a solution that's connecting all these different L2s. We're integrating the virtual machines into these L2s. So think of, for example, Uniswap being able to copy paste their code and deploy across Optimism, Arbitrum, Avalanche, etc. Those are separate instances of Uniswap. Right now, LiquidSwap, which is live on Aptos, can't do that because they would need to migrate over to EVM. So what we're enabling is the ability for applications that are built with alternative VM, like Solana VM or Move VM, to just copy paste their code and deploy onto these different L2s. But to be clear, they're not going to be connected. There's not, there's no bridge or anything connecting these applications. There's still going to be separate environments within Optimism or within Arbitrum, within ZK Zinc, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, we're essentially enabling these alternative VM applications to work within these L2 frameworks.
But even
you
having
guys,
the environment,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Does it introduce a risk vector?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be inherent risk and entirely novel technologies. We're going to be working with auditors to make sure that everything gets audited and doing even for the DeFi applications that we built out, we've done 2-3 audits per application. So definitely you're introducing new attack vectors that when you're doing something entirely new that people haven't thought of. So yeah, there's definitely going to be some risk that over time should be mitigated as they're live through audits and through a lending effect of it being live. One benefit I would say, so integrating virtual machines into new frameworks is definitely something novel. So there's always going to be novel attack vectors that are need to be examined. But the Move virtual machine, for example, is known for its security features, similar to Rust. So you're getting rid of dynamic dispatch. On Ethereum, you can have reentrancy errors, which are very common. The infamous DAO hack was a reentrancy error, where essentially you have a library that can make an unexpected call into the code without the developer having really thought about that. You also introduce a native prover, so you can do formal verification to specify specifically what the outputs are going to be based on the inputs that you're putting into the code. You can do this on Ethereum, but you need to pull in a third-party library, which could also potentially be supply chain attacked. So having that natively within the virtual machine is a huge advantage. So yeah, I mean, you're definitely potentially introducing some novel attack vectors, and we'll be sure to mitigate that through audits and scaling, for example, the TVL on these. But you're also introducing new safety features, which should make over time developing with these applications even safer.
Now, I remember earlier you were mentioning, unless I misheard, but shared liquidity between ecosystems. Is that something that would be accomplished through your solution, or do you have a partner that would provide the interoperability component for that?
Yeah, so interoperability, we would be partnering with bridge solutions like Layer 0 or Wormhole. There's various others that are out there. Within the Optimism ecosystem, though, you are sharing one bridge. So having for example, you won't have all these different versions of ETH or USDC, as everyone that's coming into Optimism is going to be using I believe it's called the super bridge, so that there's only one version of this that's shared across this ecosystem. So, within Optimism, it should feel, like one environment or, one shared liquidity pool. But then going across different L2s or going from L2s to L1s, you would need to use an interoperability solution like Layer 0 or Wormhole.
Perfect. That's a great clarification there. Now, let me just share my screen here again. I want to briefly show some of the DAPs which are live right now from the Lumio team. Now, first and foremost, I should mention that this is live over on Aptos, and we will be checking it out firsthand in the Moralis Money Pro community. But here's a quick look at that swap offering there. Now, I also wanted to point out the Pontum wallet. The Pontum wallet is produced by the Lumio team and is live and available to use. Which networks, apart from Aptos, does it support, or is it specific to Aptos right now?
Yeah, so the Pontum wallet right now supports Aptos, EVM, so all the major L2s and EVM L1s. And very, very recently, we started supporting Solana. And in the future, we're going to be supporting Bitcoin as well. So just to recap, Aptos, EVM, Solana, and Bitcoin.
And I assume that there'll be specific functionality in the Pontum wallet for these advancements that we were talking about on the roadmap, be it additional chains and things like that. Are those expected to come at the same time that those DApps launch? Or I should say, as those chains launch, will they be immediately available in the Pontum wallet?
Yeah, so the Pontum wallet today, you can use these other chains like Solana, EVM. And then, yeah, the user experience is going to be better as we start deploying Move or Solana VM applications onto Ethereum and other L1s. But yeah, you can now today use natively Solana and EVM and Aptos in the wallet.
All right. Perfect. Now, we're just about out of time for today, guys, but I want to thank everybody for joining us, and a special thank you to Alejo for explaining Lumio to us and getting us ready for all the exciting advancements coming later this year. We will definitely have Lumio back on this stream when some of these things are launching, because we want to check it out firsthand, guys. And if you really want to be at the cutting edge, that's what Moralis Money Pro is all about. So thank you again, guys. Coke, did you have anything else to add before we wrap it up here, or any other questions for our guest?
No questions, but yeah, excited to see this new way of playing between apps. Usually you have to jump through the hoops to use this here and that there, but let's see how this solution brings this into the one basket, and it makes life easier for users to be on different apps.
Awesome.
Alejo, I wanted to ask you, any special place that they should keep an eye on for development updates on Lumio? Do you guys use X a lot for that, or what's the main press release area for you guys?
Definitely, yeah. Follow us on X, Pontum Network, as well as if you want to join our Discord and Telegram chats, you'll find links in there. So yeah, happy to share updates there.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for joining us. Did you have anything else to tell our audience here before we end our stream for the day?
No, that's it. Thank you for hosting me, guys.
That's our pleasure, and we'll look forward to having you back soon. And to everybody watching live right now, we'll see you in the Moralis Money Pro community. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.